Yesterday, it was the swatting calls that struck extreme anxiety and fear in parents and police across the state. Well, today we're hearing the calls that triggered all of that panic. I want to give you a warning, though, that we're going to be playing part of the hoax calls so people can better understand the police response.
You will hear gunshots and the caller explain what he planned to do. But it's important to note no one was hurt. It was all a hoax. Investigative reporter Jeremy Hahola listened to the calls and spoke with an expert on cyber crimes about the investigation itself. Jeremy.
Yeah, that's right. Our expert believes that these calls actually originated overseas. And when you hear what was said, you'll understand why police responded to these calls in a very serious way. And you'll understand the severity of this malicious hoax. The FBI is now helping local police, and now we hear from a former top FBI official about what needs to happen to get this caller in handcuffs. With numerous squad cars, sirens, and yellow tape, police across Colorado responded to 17 schools expecting the worst, a reaction to hoax phone calls from Boulder to Alamosa. Here's a call made in Durango.
Durango La Plata Communication Center.
Hello, I'm about to go in Durango High School. I have an AR-15 and pipe bombs with me. I'm gonna shoot every kid I see in that school. I'm walking in now.
The caller also used the sound of gunfire.
Can you just talk to me for a second?
Like a script, the same words and similar voice in Canyon City.
Dispatch, how can I help you?
Hello, I'm about to go in Canyon City High School. I have an AR-15 and pipe bombs with me, and I'm gonna shoot every kid I see in that school. I'm about to walk in now.
Yeah, more likely than not, this last rash of swatting calls in the U.S. did not emanate from inside the United States, right?
James Turgill worked in the FBI for 20 years. He helped establish the FBI Cyber Crimes Task Force in the early 2000s and has worked numerous swatting cases. He now works for cybersecurity company Optiv. What would be somebody's motivation to do this?
Are they just trying to create chaos, right? Are they just trying to terrorize people? And honestly, the fact that this to me is an automated attack that you guys suffered because there was such quick succession between phone calls.
Turgill says the caller's digital footprint is likely entangled in a maze of computer servers around the world. What would it take to track down the person or people who are behind this with what happened in Colorado?
And so you start by trying to track those IP addresses back to their origin, right? But that could be tens, hundreds of thousands of different jump points.
Turgill says investigators would start with the call data in Colorado and try to connect thousands of dots to the source.
And that's why swatting from nowadays is so much more difficult to investigate. It is harder because the number of jump points that a particular threat actor can use if they're somewhere else in the world, right, is almost infinite.
Arrests of swatters have happened in the past. Last December, a man in Charlotte, North Carolina was busted by the feds for making swatting calls to schools and police departments in 5 states. Now, swatting can also lead to friendly fire. Estes Park Police said one of their officers fired a gun inside an elementary school during this response yesterday. The bullet hit the floor and thankfully nobody was hurt. The agency called that discharge of the weapon an accident.
Yeah, you can see what gets triggered by these calls just in the response alone and the tension created. That's the point of it, it seems like.
Yeah, and when you hear the calls and police are responding to these schools, they have no idea.
It's all real.
Absolutely, they have to. Oh, it's just.
You have to respond this way.
You have to.
You have to.
All right, Jeremy, thank you.
Jeremy. Anderson Aldrich, the accused Club Q gunman, will stand trial on more than 300 charges, including first-degree murder and hate crimes. The suspect is accused of killing 5 people and injuring more than a dozen others inside the popular LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs. Pictures presented as evidence showed the accused gunman inside the club. Detectives said the suspect visited as a customer at least 6 times. After the hearing, El Paso County's Republican District Attorney says he believes he has a strong case that the mass shooting was a hate crime.
The statute for bias-motivated crimes in Colorado was amended just 2 years ago. It used to be that we had to prove that somebody acted specifically for those reasons, but the wording was changed that we only have to prove that somebody acted either wholly or in part by their bias towards a particular group. That change in the statute allowed us to charge a lot of these offenses in this particular case.
The suspect will enter a guilty or not guilty plea on May 30th.
Colorado Democratic lawmakers are joining together on 4 bills to try to fight what they say is the ongoing gun violence in our state. Legislators saying they believe that after the many tragedies like King Soopers and Club Q, these bills are greatly needed. The 4 bills call for strengthening of the red flag law, allowing more people to petition for a possible dangerous person to have weapons taken away, raising the minimum age to buy a firearm from 18 to 21. Establishing a mandatory 3-day waiting period from the purchase to possession, and to remove immunity protections from sellers and manufacturers.
We've worked for months crafting the language and working with stakeholders, advocates, gun violence survivors to make sure these policies will be effective and, most importantly, enforceable.
Republican House Minority Leader Mike Lynch of Wellington released a response saying, quote, "The radical members of the Democratic caucus have taken advantage of their supermajority to push through an anti-Constitution, anti-freedom, and anti-Colorado agenda." Representative Lynch added, "As Minority Leader, I pledge to work towards finding solutions without compromising Coloradans' constitutional rights."
The city of Denver is starting enforcement of its newest licensing program. It's designed to crack down on slumlords and the properties that don't meet basic standards, like having heat.
Yeah, we could go outside and be cold there, come inside and still stay cold.
The city sent final notices to nearly 150 properties across Denver. 9 News reporter Cole Sullivan introduces us to a woman who hopes it'll help.
On a cold day like this,
But I don't have a choice.
Marlene Lambert,
You know,
has a reluctant routine.
I first turn on the oven to 400, then I prop open the door so that some heat will drift out as it heats up.
She says this is the only way she can keep her family warm.
No matter how high I can turn up the thermostat, it's still cold in here. And that's all winter long.
She says the heat in her apartment off Federal is broken. There are mold and plumbing issues too.
It's horrendous to have to live in such conditions. I'll put it that way.
After 15 years here, she wants to move, but says she can't afford to.
Because every time you sneeze, they raise the rent, it seems. So then you can't afford the box of Kleenex either. So,
She's complained to management, but she says they haven't done anything about it.
We really need to set the bomb under their butts, so to speak, to get things done. Because we've been fighting for 15 years to get little things done.
Now the city is joining her fight.
Well, it's just one last final warning.
They've sent a notice to Marlene's complex and about 150 other potential problem properties, warning them they're in violation of the city's new licensing rules. That program makes apartments meet certain basic requirements.
So it's things like making sure that there's hot water and functioning heat, no mold.
Anything for heat at this point.
Marlene hopes it'll make a difference.
Like I said, I really don't have a choice.
So she can stop this winter routine.
If it holds landlords accountable for what they're not doing, then I say go for it, the city.
Marlene's property management company says it paid for and passed an inspection, but the city doesn't have a record of it. The property manager tells me she's asked for help figuring out the city's website. If her property or any of the others don't get licensed, they'll start facing fines. Those fines begin at $150.
Denver Public Schools talking about declining enrollment, so district leaders are once again discussing whether to close some schools.
Hospitals need more workers. MSU Denver has a plan to provide relief for the critical healthcare shortage.
No shortage of opinions for the Broncos' new defensive coordinator. Vance Joseph is coming back.